Angeles Lakers are very likely going to explore some trades, right? December 15th seems to be the deadline. That is when many players become available, many players that sign new extensions, stuff like that. And therefore, the Lakers can actually make, hopefully, a solid move to upgrade the roster, right? Now, ideally, make a small move, take Patrick Beverley, Kendrick Nunn, package them together, maybe throw in a Damian Jones or JTA or both, and go get a solid piece or two, a player or two that can come in, really add to the rotation. The Lakers kind of feel like a team that is right there. Even in the game today, you saw that they played the Cleveland Cavaliers without Anthony Davis, and they still felt like such a winnable game, even without their best player, even without a guy that is the best defender in the league right now, playing at an MVP level, playing like the best player on the planet. You still felt like, okay, this is a team that could have won. If they just had another piece or two, they could have won this game. And so hopefully Rob Pelinka is looking at this stretch that the Lakers are on, even the losses, and going, man, we are a piece or two away. Now, ideally, you go and take these two and go get, a Bojan Bogdanovic, or, maybe go get like Kelly Oubre and PJ Washington, or, Josh Richardson and Jakob Poeltl, like guys like that, right? Two guys that can come in, be solid contributors, be solid rotation guys, kind of make this team a little deeper, help guys kind of fit more into a natural role, keep Russell Westbrook, because he's been so solid off the bench and been a real factor for this team, really being a great setup guy, things along those lines, and, just kind of see where you're at and reevaluate. Well, we got a report earlier today about the Chicago Bulls, and that Chicago, if they continue to lose at the rate that they are going, that they will blow it up and they'll look to trade DeMar DeRozan and Nikola Vucevic, right? Also, the Bulls, based on reports, the Bulls are refusing to give Vucevic any type of extension, right? He's a free agent after the season. He could just walk. And they are pretty much still cap strapped. So it would make sense that Chicago would want to keep him, right? Or trade him for some value. Trade him for some pieces that can come in and be a factor, or just get some assets if you were to rebuild. And so it makes sense that these two would kind of be the odd men out if Chicago was to blow things up, which it makes a lot of sense, right? And this year might be the best year for Chicago to blow things up, primarily because their pick this year is top 4 protected, and so is next year. So if they were to be in the lottery for a Victor Wembanyama or things like that, then they very likely would be able to keep their pick this year. And if they're still bad next year, then they'd be able to get their pick next year too, rather than it going to Orlando. Because if it's not conveyed this year or next year, then it becomes a second round pick the year prior. So right now, Chicago is sitting at 9-14, and they are 6th in the tank race, right? And so they're also only, they're basically 2.5 games out of having the 4th worst record in the league, which is not a good thing, right? But if the Bulls were to get rid of DeMar DeRozan, were to get rid of Nikola Vucevic, especially if they're taking on like a Russell Westbrook that they're just going to buy out or waive, things like that. Now you're probably the worst team in the league, right? You still have Zach LaVine, but Zach LaVine's kind of dealing with some injuries. Maybe you trade him, although I don't know what the value would be for him right now. I don't know what the value would be for any of these guys. Like, I don't think the Lakers would have to give up both firsts. I really don't, if they were to do this trade, because how many teams are going to go and trade for DeMar DeRozan right now? He's not a reliable three-point shooter. He's great in the mid-range. I think he would be a perfect third option. But how many teams have not only the salary to go and trade for DeMar DeRozan, but are willing to give up the assets to go and get DeMar DeRozan? At that point, if you're Chicago, you're trying to tank for Victor Wembanyama, and you're trying to free up cap space to kind of rebuild and restructure and kind of change the outlook of this team. So at that point, Russell Westbrook might be the most valuable player in the league for Chicago, because he's the only sizable contract like that where you get DeMar DeRozan. Outside of that, maybe the Nets, if the Nets start imploding again, but they've been really good. Maybe they would go, hey, we could trade Kyrie, get DeMar DeRozan. Yes, He's not Kyrie, question about fit, stuff like that. But, if you lose Kyrie next season for nothing, then you literally get nothing. And you have no cap space to go and replace him. So maybe the Nets would look at something like that. And maybe, but their assets are limited as well. I don't see. I think maybe Nikola Vucevic. I think maybe he could yield something, but he's an expiring deal. So how many teams are lining up to give up a bunch of assets to go get a center that could leave them? Where if you're the Lakers, it might make sense. You get a floor spacing big, a guy that could also be a low post threat, good passer, all of those things, and also DeMar DeRozan. I'm not really big on this deal. Like, it's not like the home run deal for me, in my opinion. I think it would be hard to pass up if you're the Lakers, though. Like, that I understand, because you're looking at it, DeMar takes off so much burden, so much of a scoring load off of LeBron James and Anthony Davis. You're getting Vucevic for basically an add-on. So if it works, great, you can keep him. If it doesn't work, you just let him go. And you're kind of in this position to where DeMar DeRozan's salary would be a pretty bargain salary, although his age, but it would be a bargain salary in the next 2 years when the cap goes up. It's supposed to go up tremendously. So if that happens, then now he becomes a real value, although he'd be like 35 at that point. But his game isn't really predicated on being an athletic type player, right? He's more skilled, more calculated. He would just take off a lot of the scoring load and a lot of the scoring burden off of LeBron and AD. So I can understand them. And we got the reports that the Lakers have had internal discussions about potentially going and getting these two. And it makes so much, if you're Chicago, it makes all the sense in the world to go and make this trade. And it makes all the sense in the world just to trade these guys, period. Right? Because you're not turning it around. Like, I called this, like, if you go look at some, not this channel, but as it stands, my sort of mother channel that started all these, I made a video about Chicago Bulls, and I did even mention it in one of the Laker videos, if I'm not mistaken, here on this channel, but I've mentioned it in the past, and I know I've mentioned it in live streams, where I said I thought Chicago was going to be terrible this year. I thought they would be a play-in team, maybe at best, maybe squeeze into the playoffs, because they were already barely a playoff team last year, and there are several teams that got better this year. So it was like the East isn't what it used to be. This team can't stop anybody. They can't really score or shoot the ball very well, which is surprising because they kind of have nothing but scorers. And this team just is really struggling. They're not very good. And I think that, they're not going to be able to turn it around. Like, I don't see this team going on some like epic run, squeeze into the 6th seed, and all of a sudden they're a contender. And if you're Chicago, how long do you want to pay all these guys to just be a play-in team, or at best a middle of the pack team that's never going to win anything, right? And you're paying all this salary, you gave up all these draft picks. At least if you tank this year and you get a top 4, even if you don't win the lottery, even if you just get a top 4 pick, then you're in a good position, and it makes the Vu trade that much more worth it, because now you didn't really give up anything, right? You traded him or traded for him, and you still got to keep your picks. So it's kind of a win-win, and you probably get some other assets, right? But if you're the Lakers, I don't think you give up both firsts in this deal. Because you're doing Chicago a huge favor at this point, right? You're you're basically clearing them off of DeMar DeRozan's salary. You're giving them an asset for it. They get to kind of retool, rebuild. They don't seem to want to pay Vu, and they get to further go into the tank race to go get Victor Wembanyama, which for Chicago, if you land Victor Wembanyama, it's worth it, right? At that point, you're good, right? So I just think if you're the Lakers, at most you're offering 1 first and maybe like 2 seconds, because they are talented guys. I do think they make the Lakers better. I kind of struggle with this trade because I don't know how much better this trade makes you. Although, if you can do it for 1 first, I would do it. Like, if Chicago, if you could do it for 1 first in 2 seconds, I would do this deal. Because then you could take Patrick Beverley and Kendrick Nunn and the other first, and go get another piece or two. So basically, you're turning Russ in a first into Demar Derozan and Nikola Vucevic, which gives you another center. You don't have to start him if you don't want to, because again, he's just the added piece for like salaries essentially, but he's a solid contributor, and he gives you some AD insurance. Like tonight, for example, like if he's missing, well, you have Vu to come in and be a solid down low post plus Thomas Bryant, Wayne Gabriel, guys like that. But now if you have a first, you can take that first, Patrick Beverley, Kendrick Nunn, and go do another deal. So I think if you could do this for one first, I think you have to do it. Because are you really keeping Russ next year, right? And if the answer is no, if you're the Lakers, then I think you do this deal. And I think this gives you makes you more of a threat. But I don't know if this makes them like a lock contender. I like this deal better than the Pacers deal. I like this deal much better than I think this deal, just because I think DeMar DeRozan is the best player out of everybody in the deal. And you get a productive center, right? Which the Lakers could really use. Yeah, defensively, you're not as good. But you can make an argument Vu's better overall offensively. Him and Miles Turner shoot like basically the same 3-point percentage. So you still get the floor spacing big, but Vu's better down low, and better post game, and just all around better scorer and a better passer, which I think is good too. You don't have to start him, like I said, if you don't want to. Like you could have a starting five of like Walker, DeMar, maybe Brown, or if you could take Bev and maybe go get like a Boyan or something. Like imagine if you had like Walker, DeMar, Boyan, LeBron, and Davis. Like perimeter defense is a concern, but that's kind of a concern now. Also, if you do get DeMar DeRozan, then maybe that changes your perspective of a trade, right? Maybe now you're looking at, trying to go get some. Maybe you are looking at like the Hornets deal. Maybe you're looking at trying to go get a Kelly Oubre, and a PJ Washington, something like that. I don't know. I just think if you could do it for one first, I think you have to. If you're the Lakers, you have to. There are a lot of questions, there are a lot of concerns. I get it, but if you can get this for one first, this is kind of like a steal. Like this is like almost like a fleece level deal. You're getting basically an all-star that could be a closer, that could be a scorer, that could be huge for the Lakers, and you get a center that can help take some of the pressure off of AD, but also you don't have to start him. You don't have to. I mean, you can, but you don't have to, right? So I think that would be beneficial as well. I don't know. As always, this is a discussion, so I want to hear from you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. What do you think? Would you do this deal? Would you not do this deal? Would you do this deal if you could do it for one first? Like if you didn't have to give up both first, would you take this deal? I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions. Let me know. Good, bad, ugly, somewhere between. Let me know down in the comment section below.